We start the show tonight with breaking news in northeast Arkansas and Walnut Ridge as well, where several anonymous sources are telling NEA Report that the police chief and the sergeant who wrote the tickets to the rail worker after he came into the police department to complain about police abuse have now been placed on administrative leave. That is according to at least 3 anonymous sources that have contacted us, and I say at least because since we've been sitting here in just a short time, well, more messages have come through, and we've received dozens of messages across our Facebook profiles and Twitter profiles as well. Social media being lit up on NEA Report as many outlets across the area are right now picking up on this big deal. Simone Jameson with Northeast Arkansas News went by Walnut Ridge Police Department at around 1:30 today. She tried to verify that this had taken place and this had happened, but there was no response as she literally knocked on the door. In fact, she said the doors were locked, the blinds were pulled. It happened between 1 and 1:30 that she tried to go by. She said she knocked multiple times, went to multiple doors. No answer. There's no answer today from Walnut Ridge Mayor Charles Snapp when I asked him specifically if the Walnut Ridge Police Chief Chris Kirksey or if the Walnut Ridge Sergeant who wrote the ticket, Matt Cook, had been placed on administrative leave or suspended or punished in any way. There was no response from Charles Snapp. We did call the Walnut Ridge Police Department, and a woman answered the phone and said that Chief Kirksey and Officer Cook were not in the office. She refused to tell us when they would be returning, because I asked her several times. I actually asked her if she knew when they would be back, and her exact response was, "Would you like to leave a message?" I asked her why she was avoiding my questions. She said, "I just work here." Well, that's what Officer Mercado did, too, when he decided that he was going to break the law. A lot of people just work here, but it takes people of good character to stand up and do what's right. I'm not saying that that's not her necessarily, but it wouldn't have hurt her to confirm it over the phone anonymously, since I obviously didn't have her name. Nonetheless, she didn't, because the city of Walnut Ridge is trying to be quiet about this. Even though this was on the Bob and Tom show today, it's on Free Thought Project's website, which has millions of followers. It's going nationwide. It's making Walnut Ridge look bad. And the city of Walnut Ridge is not saying anything. So we submitted Freedom of Information Act requests today to the Walnut Ridge Police Department for Kirksey and Cook's disciplinary records. We submitted them to both Cook and Kirksey's email address. I noticed just a second or two after I sent the emails, I got a response from both. That's what I got. Now, that's not a coincidence. Obviously, those are out of the office email notifications. And both of them are out of the office until, quote, further notice. We don't know what that means as far as if they're on vacation officially or what. But our sources tell us they've both been temporarily placed on administrative leave in the wake of what we've reported about over the last, week. We asked Charles Snapp yesterday. Remember? We asked him a question on record and not related to the lawsuit. The question was, in general, overall, does Chief Chris Kirksey still have your confidence as the head of law enforcement in your community? We asked him that, and he said he was going to tell us a response at 1 o'clock in an official written statement. This was the response, by the way. It neglected to mention anything about Kirksey, but perhaps that's because Snapp can't mention anything about Kirksey. That could be the reason. Perhaps this was Snapp's only way of telling us that he took action, or in the future, his ability to tell us this was the point that he took action. The statement said there's ongoing litigation with Walnut Ridge on the Finley v. City of Walnut Ridge lawsuit, and the city is being represented by the Arkansas Municipal League. We have no further comments at this time. The problem was I wasn't asking him about that lawsuit. He has a law enforcement officer that's in charge of his department that, although questions pertaining to this lawsuit have seriously drawn into account his credibility, the question of it, it's not just this case that he's responsible for. He has to work on all cases involving crime in Walnut Ridge. So either this means we're not going to hear another comment from the Walnut Ridge officials until this case is over with in court, which doesn't make much sense, or eventually they're going to have to explain if the chief of police is working, and if not, why. This is important. It's important because if you haven't seen the videos, they showed many different things. Obviously, many of you have seen the Mercado video and the abuse that took place in that. But the video of the complaint that was being made at the Walnut Ridge Police Department showed something a lot worse, in my opinion, and many others too. It showed the chief of police, the Walnut Ridge chief of police. It showed him defending an officer who had clearly broken the law and broken his oath of commitment to the public. He broke the trust that we as a community have placed in him. And they don't care, by the way. Do you think they care? Do you think they're sitting there really feeling bad about this? They don't. They think I'm hitting this too hard. And they think that, as one person, Nancy Hall, the city attorney, said, she said, accused me of being biased because Mark Reese is one of my advertisers on the NEA Report website. By the way, he doesn't actually advertise on this show. He advertises on the website. Clearly, I mean, full disclosure, it's not hidden. His picture's on the website. But Mark and everyone else know that I don't judge anything to do personally with whether or not I'm going to do a story. Nancy should know that, because at least as I began this, I felt as though I could call her a friend, and I felt the same way about Chief Kirksey. But I will tell you, since this has come out and since I've reviewed the tapes, I sent messages to both of them telling them how disappointed I am. Because unlike either of those two, I'm not covering for one of my buddies when I see him do something wrong. And nobody else should either. And a lot of other people don't plan to, by the way. I'm going to tell you about those people in just a second. But I want to tell you why nobody should cover for someone that's doing something wrong. The results of what happened in this case didn't just cost this man enough money to hire an attorney, and it didn't just cause him some grief or stress. It cost him his marriage. Both the woman in the video that you saw and the railroad worker, Adam Finley, separated within weeks of this taking place. The divorce was finalized April 2017, and both say this incident led to the divorce and caused it. When you have both people agreeing on what caused the divorce, what do we need to see? The 30 seconds before they agreed? That's been one of the defenses, by the way. We didn't see the 30 seconds before when there's no audio on the video. That's because the officer's audio doesn't start recording until he turns the camera on his lapel, which he turns on usually before he gets to the vehicle and starts talking to the subject. Or he turns on at the first sign of trouble. So, this is the video, quick clip, of what caused the ruination of a marriage. What you're seeing next is Chief Chris Kirksey talking to the railroad worker's wife when the rail worker went out of the room. This was during the complaint process.
From what I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
Who, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
Obstruction of justice.
What do you do?
He interfered with the law enforcement officers' investigation of the site.
But he didn't. And we know that. We know that for several reasons, not just because all of us here that watch the news together on NEA Report have eyeballs and brains, but also because the judge, Adam Weeks, dismissed this. He knew what this was. He knew exactly what this was when he saw it. Judge Weeks dismissed the 2 charges that were brought against Adam Finley. And the 2 days that followed didn't take Adam Finley long. He got to Jonesboro attorney Mark Reese. And he decided to make a stand against, well, what took place to him. And it's not just a stand he wants to make to get something out of. This is something that I guarantee you, Weeks, and I know Reese through our conversations, they want to stop from ever happening again. And I think all of us, as members of the public, should want that too. The public's reacted to this in a major and overwhelming way. I was contacted last night by the mayor of a nearby town. I mean, as most of you guys know, I know just about every city leader around here just through having interviewed them. I'm not saying they all like me. I'm just saying I usually know them. And a mayor called me and told me last night he was, first of all, furious. He said, "Thank you for doing this story and do not stop." Quote, "This would never have happened in this town." In fact, he was so mad when he saw the video, he took it to his police chief and told him, and showed him the video, and told him, "If this ever happens here, the officer and you are gone." And he said, "You." That's a mayor. He said, according to that chief of police, the chief said it would never happen here. The mayor, by the way, asked to remain anonymous. He doesn't want to create a rift in between towns and a feud, and I get that. But he also said that video that you've seen on NEA Report will be used in training to show other officers how not to act. Even though that is how at least one community leader is viewing it, and many more who have lit my phone up over the past couple of days and told me this is not acceptable. Even though many have come forward and shown the character and the willingness to speak out against this, officers and elected officials and other, not Henry Boyce. First, Henry Boyce said, quote, "The charges were actually made by citation at recommendation of my deputy prosecuting attorney, Ryan Cooper, after having the events of the traffic stop related to him by Walnut Ridge Police Chief Chris Kirksey." Boyce said that in the first part of his statement he sent out yesterday, which I've shortened down the full statement, neareport.com. Here's what's important. I've also reviewed the video of the incident that led to the citations being issued, and feel that the evidence justified the recommendation Mr. Cooper made to the chief of police. Dude, you need to resign. If you looked at that video and think that was justified in any way, at any point, it's time for you to go.
Okay, didn't look like you were working. Step back from me some, too. You get up on me again, we're going to have problems. I'm glad you think this is a joke, sir. I work for him. What were you doing over there? And why aren't you in a marked vehicle? Yeah, you're obstructing with my operation. No, let me tell you. I work for him. Look at all this stuff back here. What did I tell you about getting up on me, sir? Turn around. Put your hands behind your back. You're about ignorant.
Yeah, but the problem about that statement is that railroad worker makes about 4 times an hour than what that cop makes. So the cop may have felt like calling him ignorant, but I think if he would have seen his tax returns, he would have probably had a different choice of words. But Boyce is defending this, what you just saw. It's fine with him. He's okay with it, and I hope you remember that in the next election. Take a look at your elected officials in moments like this. By the way, we've been trying to get in touch with Deputy Prosecutor Ryan Cooper. We've emailed him, called his office. He doesn't respond to the media. So it's day 3 with no response from Deputy Prosecutor Ryan Cooper. And yes, this is a recurring segment. We'll be bringing this one back every day. But I do want to show you something, an important quote from Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He's an anti-Nazi. He was a German. He tried to stand up against corruption, fascism, you know, the kind of thing when the government starts arresting people for made-up charges and then they start justifying it. And he had a very interesting quote I wanted to share with you. "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil." He said, "God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." And if you've ever heard this statement, silence is deafening, this is the kind of situation that statement was made about. Back with So, I want to continue with you all here on NEA Report at 426 because I promised you that I was going to tell you about a story that we received on Mercado, another story about Officer Mercado's police work. Officer Mercado being the gentleman that grabbed the railroad worker by the collar and nearly the throat and shoved him back in against his vehicle. This is very interesting. This was just late in the day, and by the way, stand by, I have breaking news right after I finish with this segment that's just come in. It was between December 2016 and February 2017 that I'm told by a source who, understandably so, wants to remain anonymous. By the way, anonymous sources happen whenever you have towns that go after people that make complaints, like Walnut Ridge, because literally they did that. So she tells me, very well thought of in the community, very credible person. I know this person well enough to know that she's smart. Between 2016 and February 2017, on a day where there was ice, she said that she rolled through a four-way stop because it was icy. She didn't feel like she could safely come to a stop. She thought she might lose control of the vehicle and maybe wreck. Well, enter Matthew Mercado. She said he stopped her and walked up to her, and the conversation went from 0 to 100 almost instantly, according to the woman. Her exact words to me, I'm reading it right now, were that it took place at the four-way stop at the corner of Free Street Church of Christ and Walnut Ridge. I did a rolling stop since there was ice on the road. Mercado, somebody messaged me, said I'm echoing. Let's make sure we fix that. Okay. Better. All right. Sorry, folks. Sincerely sorry about that. And thank you to Hillary, who messaged me and told me. Audio issues fixed. Let me come back to this and go back at the beginning of this. We received a moment or two before we began the show tonight. We received an anonymous and a credible story from someone on Officer Matthew Mercado. This is from somebody that I know well enough to know is a very intelligent and trustworthy person and a good person. She wanted to remain anonymous. It's hard to understand why you would want to remain anonymous whenever you are in a community that clearly doesn't go after the police whenever they make mistakes. And they didn't this time. They covered up for it all the way through the deputy prosecutor, Ryan Cooper. Well, she said that a traffic stop took place with her back during Mercado's period of employment there, which, by the way, that's correct. That's when he was there. She said it was at the Free Street Church of Christ in Walnut Ridge. She said, I did a rolling stop since there was ice on the road, and Matthew Mercado was parked at the Free Street Church. She said, I passed him and he throws his lights on. I knew why I was getting pulled over, no big deal. He approaches my vehicle and says condescendingly, do you know what you just did? I said, yes. I tried to explain to him that I've always been told not to stop completely on ice if I can help it. Where are you going, he asks. I try to tell him back home for my lunch hour. He goes, don't assume I know where you live. I'm not from here. And then I point down the road. I say, back behind the hospital. He goes, where are you coming from? I tell him I work at the courthouse. Quote, again, I'm not from here. What do you do at the courthouse? I tell him. She said, the whole time we're conversing, I'm sitting there like, what in the world is happening right now? I felt so uneasy, Stan. This was around the time that they were talking about police shooting people, innocent people, for no reason. I was not comfortable at all. He never asked for my ID, proof of insurance, nothing, she says. She says she's not even sure that he ran her tags. He gets back in the cop car. She says she sat there for a moment because she was just in shock. She proceeded to call dispatch because she wanted to know who that was. She said the dispatcher said who his first name was, but wouldn't tell her the last name. By the way, I don't know why small-town people think that you got rights to not tell us your name. You work for the government, you tell the name. Also, I said he was new. I told her what happened, that I understood why I was pulled over, but not why I was given his condescending attitude. She told me she would have Kirksey call me if I wanted to tell him what happened. I had time to think about it, and I ignored Kirksey's call because I honestly didn't want a target on my back, especially since I worked in the county, she said. But it's not hard to imagine why somebody might think like that. You know, it's not like Chief Chris Kirksey covered up for somebody, for this officer whenever he did something wrong.
From what I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
Who, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
Obstruction of justice.
What'd he do?
He interfered with the law enforcement officers' investigation.
See, that video, for those of you who couldn't hear it, and I'm just going to repeat it because I had somebody in chat say that they had a hard time being able to hear that. He said he's lucky he didn't go to jail. Chief Kirksey did. To Finley's wife when Finley was out of the room. She said, for what? He said, for obstructing a governmental operation. Let's play it back again here, because I want you guys to see this.
From what I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
Who, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
Obstruction of justice.
What'd he do?
He interfered with the law enforcement officers' investigation of the site.
So, interfering with a law enforcement officer's investigation now in Walnut Ridge means, according to the deputy prosecutor Ryan Cooper, working on the railroad and the officer not having enough intelligence to figure out you work for the railroad company. That's it. That's literally obstruction of justice in Walnut Ridge now. That's where we're at, folks. Now, I've got to tell you, we've got some more stuff to talk about here. A couple of things I hit on real fast yesterday I'm going to hit on right now. Number one, the city of Walnut Ridge has been deleting Facebook comments off of the Walnut Ridge Police Department's Facebook page to the degree that a page dedicated to that has been created. It's not legal as far as my understanding goes of this law, and I've spoken to others who would agree. There's some lawsuits pending on it, but government officials are not supposed to delete any comments or public forum or public discourse off of a government entity's page. Because the First Amendment, again, this is often confused online. The First Amendment doesn't mean your comment can't be deleted off of your neighbor's Facebook wall. And it doesn't mean that you can't be fired for saying something horrible if you work for, you know, McDonald's or NEA Report or some other place. McDonald's probably pays more. And you are protected from only government reprisal. First Amendment. First Amendment means freedom of speech from government reprisal. But when the government actually deletes your comments, like the one that you're looking at on your screen, clearly a well-thought, long comment. I should say clearly a long comment, but yeah, I've read it. It was pretty well thought, too. Delete it. In fact, this is the evidence of that deletion. You can see the red arrow right here pointing 92 comments on one thread. The next thing I did was click it, open it up, and there's no comments left. There's some serious problems right now going on in the city of Walnut Ridge, okay? And I am well aware that there are folks in the city of Walnut Ridge trying to deal with these problems to the best of their ability. As I open up my cell phone here, I did tell you guys we received breaking news, and I'm going to hit you with that right now. So stand by. Okay, back with more breaking news, and that is that the city of Walnut Ridge has said that there's no documents to respond to with your Freedom of Information Act request when I submitted a FOIA for disciplinary action earlier today involving Chris Kirksey or Matt Cook. That is news from just seconds ago that was sent to me by the Walnut Ridge City Clerk, Sharon Henson. That, of course, is in response to the Freedom of Information Act we submitted after NEA report learned through several anonymous sources. Breaking news this afternoon, we have been told by 3 sources well connected within the city that Police Chief Chris Kirksey and Sergeant Matt Cook, who wrote the tickets that this whole incident really escalated over. It had already begun with the bad traffic stop, but then you throw in the police covering up for the bad cop, and it becomes a bigger problem on a magnitude we can't even, it's exponential. Now, the 2 people that were believed to have, who were seen on camera doing that, Cook, who wrote the ticket himself, and Kirksey, who said that he called Deputy Prosecutor Ryan Cooper and asked him what to do, and Kirksey says that Cooper sent him the advice to write those citations to the man who was coming into the office to complain. Well, there's now been a form of punishment for that. It's a paid vacation. That's what I'm told. Paid administrative leave means paid vacation. That means they're not going to come to work for a couple of weeks and their paychecks keep coming in. Hey man, can I get a paid administrative suspension? Because I'm sure, like most of the folks in chat right now, with over 218 people watching live from Northeast Arkansas and around the world, I'm sure most of us would love to have that. That's not going to work. Unfortunately, you cannot have your chief of police cover up crimes for officers, clear crimes caught on video, crimes of assault. You can't have this, folks. This is
yeah, you're obstructing with my operation. No, let me tell you. I mean, I work for him. Look at all this stuff back here. What did I tell you about getting up on me, sir? Turn around.
That's assault by a hothead, and you are going to tell me that the man who cleared him, who covered up for him, who cited the guy that got attacked, is going to come back and be the police chief again? No, I'm sorry. I like you. I like you a lot, Chris. This is going to be a rare part of the show where I'm going to give a message from me to one other person, and it's Chris Kirksey. Chris, I love you. You've supported NEA Report since the day I started this. You were one of the first people that said you would help me anytime, and you've shown tremendous respect to me, and I've always tried to show it to you. I can't explain how disappointed I am in watching this and in seeing what happened, because this is not justice. This is something that will be looked upon in history as abhorrent and fascist and criminal in itself. And what you did is inexcusable by covering up for this officer. And you should resign. I don't like editorializing on this because, folks, we have enough people that claim to be news that give opinions. The hard part about this, for me, the hardest part is I know what it's like to be arrested for something you've not done. And I know what it's like for you to expect the cop above the arresting officer to do something. And he doesn't. And he signs off on it. And then you expect the prosecutor to do something. And he doesn't. And he signs off on it. And it's you versus the world. And everybody blames you. Your family, your loved ones, your pastor. They all question, is this true about you? And you have to look them in the eyes, every single one, and tell them no. And every single person, you have to tell them your side, and you're the little guy. And when it's you versus an entire city, people instinctively don't believe you. Because that's a conspiracy theory in and of itself to suggest that there is a manipulation of justice by multiple people within office. But that's what just happened here. It's happened to me too. I know exactly what it's like. And I want to tell you, the feelings that this poor fellow probably went through, especially when his own wife looked at him and didn't know if he was lying to her or if the police chief and the entire community of Walnut Ridge was lying to her, then it's a totally different problem. A $500 fine. Remember, this guy didn't even show up to the police station with any future legal issues. He showed up to make a stand. He showed up to say, please don't let this happen to someone else. That's all he wanted. Maybe the officer had a bad day, right? And the police chief could counsel him. And it could be an educational opportunity. And that's not what happened. The guy ended up getting charged with crimes, folks. And do you want to know what happened when I started covering this? Because now I'm so mad, and I'm obviously live. It's 4:41 right now, and what happens is I start doing the show, and I get mad, and I go off script. Nancy Hall, the city attorney, blows my phone up earlier in this week, sending me everything she can in reference to this guy's past that has nothing to do with this. I'm talking about the railroad worker, Mr. Finley. She sends me messages accusing him of things I'm not going to repeat here because she's trying to bait me into realizing or saying or suggesting that this guy deserved this. That's the logic at work here. He did other bad things, so this is okay. Nancy, you need to step down as city attorney. This is absolutely, every way you've handled this week, honestly, Snap should fire you. But Charles is so nice, he probably won't. You should resign. I'm going to assume that Officer Cook, who is also suspended, according to the sources that I've been informed by, was following his boss's orders. Of course, he didn't sound like he was too reluctant to follow him in the tape. But my suggestion to Officer Cook would be stand up against things sometimes when you think they're wrong. And that's probably kind advice. But as we sit here, all of us together, and we've covered this all week long, you know that I care about this. And I've told you a little bit today why. Because it happened to me. I contacted one of the officers that was involved in what happened to me today. You know what I told him? That every day that I cover a corrupt police officer or any level of corruption in our community, every morning I wake up and I think of what was done to me. That's what I told this officer. He's a dirtbag. And I told him, thank you. Because what you did was set me on a path in life to have a mission, to stop things like this from happening. But I never realized until I actually started doing this that the problems regularly go up the ladder and get covered up. That's what everybody misses about this. This is not a conspiracy theory that I'm about to tell you. Police cover for police all the time. It's called professional courtesy. I've done ride-alongs with police officers where when they pull over someone in an unmarked car, this guy's going 95, pulled him over, and he come back to the car and the guy drove off. And I said, you let him go? Yeah, it was another cop, he said. He showed me his badge. I said, is that normal? It's called professional courtesy. Professional courtesy destroys lives. Adam Finley and his wife got a divorce because an officer took professional courtesy to another level and covered up for an assault. And then when Adam Finley left the room, Kirksey said this to his wife.
But from what I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
Who, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
Obstruction of justice.
What do you do?
He interfered with law enforcement officers' investigation of the site.
You know this, every police officer and prosecutor across this area. And you listen here. I want every one of you to watch this and listen and share. Today going forward is a new day in Northeast Arkansas. If you're corrupt and you cover for other corrupt cops and the prosecutors cover for them, I'm coming after you. And this is proof with everybody that's in chat that the people have the power to come after you. This story is on Police the Police, Free Thought. Bob and Tom show had it this morning. It was on Little Rock News all day yesterday, and I hope it ends up on national news on the actual national channels tonight. Wouldn't surprise me if you see it there. And for every officer out there that's at work, most of you do fine work. But if you cover up for a colleague that's bad, you are not doing fine work. You're jeopardizing the legitimacy of the entire profession. For some reason, it's hard to get a media outlet around here to hold truth to power. We're going to do that. If it's until the last day, until I get pulled over in Walnut Ridge and written 15 obstruction of justice tickets because I blinked wrong at the officer, we're going to do it. But the problem is, even now, even with all the attention and this rolling towards being one of the area's most negative and biggest national stories we've seen in a while, nobody is wrong, according to themselves. Henry Boyce says the prosecutor is not wrong. Walnut Ridge mayor won't say anything. Nancy Hall has quit saying anything after she blamed me for being a corrupt reporter. But the results speak for themselves. If you feel comfortable making somebody go pay thousands of dollars to a lawyer, and you feel comfortable putting a family through a divorce because you want to protect someone who can't do a job right, how dare you?
Family Medical Clinic of Walnut Ridge and Bono are your neighborhood healthcare providers, and we're now accepting new patients. We know you have a tight schedule, so we're here 6 days a week at both locations from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Walk-ins are welcome. In Walnut Ridge, stop by 1045 West Main Street or call us to make an appointment, 886-8300. In Bono, we're on Highway 63 North or call 930-9990. Walnut Ridge Family Medical Clinic and Bono Family Medical Clinic, here for you when you need us.
Haley Norris, Realtor.
No.
Should I make my hair go like this? Whether you need to buy, sell, or lease. Haley, can I use my hands? Or is
Yeah.
that, where are my hands? Where do they go?
Just say-
Haley.
Just like Haley.
Whether you need my expertise. Haley Norris, Realtor. Or even do a commercial lease. Haley Norris, Realtor. Should I say Remax Real Estate Center or no? Is that too salesy?
No, that's good.
My average days on market is just 50 days. You need my expertise. And that means I'm putting more money back in your pocket.
Accidents happen. So what happens if you bring your car or truck to Stadium Auto Body? It's in the hands of a manufacturer-certified expert who'll treat it with respect. It's brought back to life using the advanced tools and technologies today's vehicles require. All makes, all models. At Stadium Auto Body, we do the job right, back our work with a limited lifetime warranty, and make the whole experience pleasantly easy. Accidents happen. We're what happens next. Tell your insurance company you choose Stadium Auto Body.
Back live with you on NEA Report. It's 4:49 across Northeast Arkansas. If you're just joining us, today's breaking news story that we have found out, according to several anonymous sources, the Walnut Ridge Police Chief has been suspended. That is due to the video that we reported here on NEA Report earlier in the week that showed the police chief covering up for an officer during what was best described as an extraordinarily disturbing traffic stop. We usually bring you the weather here on NEA Report, partially because we have a wonderful weather sponsor, and I want to do that. Your new Wave Wireless forecast is home of the $49 iPhone screen repair. Sorry the graphic isn't as pretty today. Some days it's just a little bit busy on other stories, but new Wave Wireless has got you covered if you're looking for great cell service and a super cheap phone repair. Now, let's talk about what we have tonight. Mostly clear skies, a low around 45, 72 for your high tomorrow, partly sunny. Showers possibly moving in the afternoon with a low around 56 and maybe 3/4 of an inch of rain falling between Saturday night into Sunday. Showers are likely Sunday with a high only near 59, and then showers are likely mainly before 1 a.m. Sunday night with otherwise cloudy skies and a low of 54. You got some slight chance for showers starting your week out early next week with highs staying in the lower 60s. It's 66 degrees with fair skies in Jonesboro right now. Can you tell I'm upset? I don't know if you guys are able to tell or not, but I am not particularly a happy camper with some of this stuff that we have covered here today. The problem that I'm having, let's just pull that off the screen because I'm probably going to show you guys my personal emails. The problem I'm having right now is that I am in shock that there are people that are lying to themselves about what happened in the city of Walnut Ridge, because we have now Somebody mentioned in chat that there are folks watching from all around the world. This is now being covered across news outlets all around the world. It's so much bigger than any A report. Let me tell you, I've got some breaking news for you right now. I saw one of my buddies text me. I saw his name pop up on the screen, and when I get a text message from some people, I look at it even in the middle of the show. It's very interesting. Let's see. So I asked Mark Reese, I was sitting here texting him, I said, hey, is Boyce right or wrong? Can you resist an unlawful arrest? And you can't, he said. You can't resist that. But they're wrong about it being an unlawful arrest, he said. And, of course, you've seen the video describing and showing, giving you an exact look of why. You know, the big news today is that the police chief, Walnut Ridge Police Chief, is, according to 3 sources that we've spoken with, he is right now on paid administrative leave being a suspension that's paid. So right now, that's the word from him. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit of the reason why that is, if you haven't seen it yet.
And that's a lot of writing.
Cookie cleaning here. I just got off the phone with the prosecuting attorney. I explained to him exactly what happened in this situation, and he has advised me to have you written a citation both for obstructing a governmental operation and refusal to submit to arrest. So you will be written those citations right now. This will be taken into account.
Right.
You'll be going to court.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
So this will be taken into account. There'll be an internal investigation, but from what was seen on camera, and I talked to the prosecuting attorney, just now got off the phone with him, he told me to have you written those citations. Okay?
The driver's license. So I'm getting a ticket for something?
Yeah.
Exactly what, yeah.
Now, what is this?
Refusal to submit.
To submit what?
To arrest.
To arrest.
What does that mean?
You probably can't answer anything.
I mean, seriously, what does that mean?
He arrested.
Refusal to arrest?
Refusal to submit to arrest.
What does that mean?
Whenever he told you to turn around and put your hands behind your back and you didn't.
Oh, when I asked him for what? Before I was going to turn around? Okay.
Now, let me pause the video because I want to highlight something. Remember how I was telling you guys that this caused problems between their marriage? Look at that moment that took place. Look at the sigh that his wife... You can see her chest inhale and exhale. Watch. And her husband's trying to explain to her, I'm innocent. Really. And she's heard from the officer this.
From what I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
Who had him? For what?
Obstruction of justice.
What did he do?
Interfered with law enforcement officers' investigation of the stop.
Gosh. I gotta tell you, that gets harder and harder to look at. I don't know what bothers me the most out of all of this story, but it should bother everybody. I've seen some comments that suggest that, and one of the comments I particularly liked a lot, one of the comments said that if this is something that doesn't bother you, then there's something wrong with you. And I have to agree. I've watched thousands of hours of police videos because I love what the men and women in blue do. Police have our backs. Most of the time. But there's a serious problem in police culture, and we're talking about it right here. Police have each other's backs all of the time. Don't know if you saw the story. There was the news out today that police, the There was a recommendation for charges against the officer in the Eric Garner case that choked the guy to death and wouldn't let go, and the guy's screaming, "I can't breathe." And they recommended charges, but it said there was a prosecutor that had reservations about it. Of course, there always is. It's apples and oranges to try to compare that case with this case, but I'm trying to show you all that across many different cases, police look out for each other. And I know it because I've experienced it. I've experienced it firsthand. But the media and the press, or at least the ones of us that are doing what we should be doing, are also looking out for you. And I don't have loyalty to a department or to a badge or to anything, to be quite honest with you, except for what I think is the truth and justice. And I ask myself every day, am I wrong? Is what I'm doing wrong? Or am I right? And we all have to ask ourselves those questions, because none of us are getting better unless we try as people. But we're dealing with a situation tonight where it's disturbing, it's emotionally disturbing. The viewership count is in the hundreds of thousands. It'll be by the millions before the weekend is over. I suspect this is going to be on the national news before the next 3 days end. It wouldn't surprise me if it's next week. I saw there was a gentleman trying to organize a statement from those involved with the families of the Beatles. Somebody trying to send the video to them and get them to make a statement about how Walnut Ridge as a community is using the Beatles as a major tourist attraction. Are you really going to put all you've put into this city at risk for that? Are you really going to give your opponents the kind of ammunition they can use to destroy everything you've worked so hard to build? I've helped. I've been there. I've covered the amazing events, the Beatles at the Ridge, the fun things that take place on Main Street, the growth, the economy, the vibrance, seeing life come back into the town. I've seen a lot of hard work by the leadership that's there, the Walnut Ridge Council, and many others. I've seen many of their law enforcement officers do great work too. And right now, if you Google Walnut Ridge, you're going to watch something about this. And that's not what people from out of town need to see or think about. Again, these are the costs of covering up for others who do bad things. It's been a long week. It's probably not happened before, at least in my memory, that news has made it so difficult on me to get sleep. But this week I felt almost to where I couldn't rest. One of the things that come out of this that I think is going to be helpful is that I've received a number of communications from folks across the area, not just in Lawrence County, in fact some in Jonesboro, where I may be next. And those detailed police abuses, abuse of power, and cover-ups that were involved with it. I'm not bloviating and I'm not blowing hot air, but I'm telling you, I've sent multiple texts to multiple cops and prosecutors this week, and I told them, if you ever do this, I'm coming for you. And I'm sending that message out publicly now. I'm Stan Morris. I'm glad you joined us this week. I'm glad you all care about our communities. I'm glad you all care about justice. It's terrifying to have to be the one to make decisions to take something like this and put it on a grand scale. And sometimes it's like staring up at a mountain and wondering how I'm going to climb to the top of it alone and with nothing. But I try to make the right decisions based on what I would want to happen to me if I were in everyone's shoes. And if I would have been in Adam Finley's shoes, I know what I would have wanted to happen to me. Because I did want it to happen to me. Somebody has to stand up for the little guy when he's done nothing wrong. And be willing to stand up against people who are even their close friends and tell them, you've made a mistake. You failed this city. I'm Stan Morris. I hope you have a safe weekend. Remember, we'll be back if breaking news breaks out on any A report. Until then, we ask you to like and share this and other posts to help support us. That helps us a great deal. And I know a lot of people are angry right now at Walnut Ridge. I just want to mention there's several sponsors we have in Walnut Ridge. Please don't blame them. Please don't blame other businesses or other good people there. Let's deal with this. Let's communicate our dismay to those involved. And let's make our community better. Have a good night.